They watched humanity burn, 20 million lives erased in a single broadcast. The galaxy laughed, celebrated, and called it justice. But they forgot one truth whispered across every battlefield in human history. When humanity loses everything, that's when the war truly begins. The broadcast began with static, a flicker of blue light across the hollow feeds of 1,000 worlds. Every major species in the Galactic Union tuned in, curious to see what punishment would befall the primitive world that had dared to strike back at one of their patrol fleets. The Akratal Dominion, tall insectoid creatures with glittering chitin and compound eyes, were the hosts of the event. They had discovered Earth only 12 cycles earlier, and from the beginning, they had declared humanity an anomaly, unfit for membership, too violent, too emotional. The Dominion's leaders had proposed containment, isolation, or extermination. The rest of the Union barely cared, until humans fought back. A Union mining convoy had entered Sol space unannounced. Human defense forces had issued warnings. When the convoy ignored them, the Earth Defense Network fired. 3 alien ships were destroyed, including one carrying noble Akratal eggs. The Dominion called it an act of genocide. Now the punishment was to be an example. The broadcast was titled Justice for the Fallen. The target, New Jakarta, one of Earth's largest space cities, orbiting high above the Pacific Rim. 20 million men, women, and children. As the broadcast began, every alien viewer saw the same thing. A trembling human girl, no more than 7, clutching a teddy bear as alarms blared behind her. Overhead, alien dreadnoughts eclipsed the sun. The Dominion Fleet Commander, Admiral Xyrix Kra, delivered a speech to the galaxy about justice, deterrence, and order. Then the dreadnoughts fired. Blue lances of plasma crossed the void, striking the orbital city. For 10 long minutes, the cameras lingered on the destruction. Screaming civilians, collapsing infrastructure. The feed panned across the surface of Earth itself as debris rained down in streaks of fire. And when it was done, silence. The galaxy watched, applauded, some even cheered. But somewhere, deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, humanity was not silent. General Elias Ward, commander of the United Earth Defense Force, stood in a room dimly lit by holographic displays. His face was carved with age and grief, the lines around his eyes heavy with decades of service. 20 million, he said softly. We warned them not to cross the line. Across the table, Defense Secretary Amira Chen's voice trembled with barely contained rage. They wanted a show. They got one. But they don't understand. They just broadcasted a declaration of total war. Ward's gaze hardened. Then we'll answer it. Humanity didn't have the numbers. They didn't have the technology. Against the Galactic Union's combined fleets, Earth was an insect before a storm. But what they did have was resolve, and an old truth that every empire in human history had learned the hard way. Humans adapt. Humans endure. Humans strike back. In the following days, the world changed. Every screen, every network, every station replayed the massacre. At first, there was only mourning. Then anger. Then unity, unlike anything seen since the birth of the United Nations. Factories that once built shuttles began constructing weapons. Civilian industries converted overnight. Artificial intelligence once used for city management was repurposed for logistics and strategy. The colonies on Mars and Luna declared full allegiance to Earth's Defense Command. Within 2 weeks, the first countermeasure was ready, Project Retaliator. It wasn't a fleet, or a superweapon, or anything the galaxy could understand. It was a seed, a plan born from desperation and human creativity. Ward stood before the engineers and soldiers of the Lunar Forge, looking up at a prototype unlike anything before it, a dark, angular vessel carved for stealth, speed, and vengeance. Ladies and gentlemen, Ward said quietly, the galaxy watched 20 million of us die. Let's make sure they never see it happen again. The prototype's designation blinked across the hangar display. HSS Vengeance, Human Strike Ship. It was barely larger than a frigate, but carried weapon systems that bent every treaty. Every law of physics the Union had thought immutable. Meanwhile, the Akertal Dominion celebrated. On their glittering homeworld, the great hives erupted in song. The Chancellor praised the cleansing of the violent apes. Other races followed suit: the Tirax Coalition, the Drunari Spires, the Vuln Collective. They all congratulated the Dominion for ensuring peace, but there were dissenters. Among the Kalari, a reptilian scholar named Tavor Eineth stared at the broadcast archive, unable to look away. He'd studied human history for decades, fascinated by their wars and art alike. He knew what would come. "Fools," Tavor whispered. "You showed them their own extinction on a stage. You didn't destroy them. You gave them purpose." He sent a report to the Galactic Council. "Humanity will retaliate. Expect unconventional warfare. Expect the impossible." The Council ignored it. Back on Earth, preparations continued, hidden beneath oceans. Within old nuclear silos and deep in Martian caverns, humanity began building the Shadow Fleet, small, fast ships capable of silent travel through FTL voids. Not a single one bore official markings. Command AI SolNet, awakened for full-spectrum defense, coordinated the chaos. Millions volunteered. Billions donated. For the first time in centuries, Earth spoke with one voice. Ward's voice echoed across every broadcast. They wanted to break us. They reminded us who we are instead. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We endure. 3 months after the massacre, the Dominion fleet returned to Earth's orbit. They came not for battle, but inspection, to ensure humanity's compliance. 50 dreadnoughts, each a kilometer long, hung like gods above the blue planet. Zyrex Cross stood in the command deck, mandibles flexing with smug satisfaction. Scan complete. No orbital defenses detected. Ground power grids are minimal. Primitive recovery attempts. "They are broken. Should we enforce planetary restriction?" asked one of his officers. Zyrex's mandibles clicked. "No. Let them rebuild enough to serve as an example. Fear is more efficient than fire." But as his words left his mouth, a faint signal pulsed through the void, a ripple of data so small it was almost lost in background radiation. The Dominion sensors caught it, but dismissed it as interference. The message, transmitted in a tight beam across the dark side of the moon, was simple. Operation Echo Fire is go. Far beyond Luna, hidden in the shadow of Saturn, HSS Vengeance came alive. Its engines flared in silence, absorbing light rather than emitting it. Inside, Commander Rhea Donovan, a former shuttle pilot turned resistance leader, sat strapped into her seat. Her voice was calm as she addressed her crew. "This isn't war," she said. "This is payback." The ship slipped into the dark between stars. That night, across the galaxy, small signals began disappearing. Dominion patrols lost contact. Comm relays went offline, and a cargo freighter exploded in orbit without cause. The Union dismissed it as accidents. Then came the broadcasts. Short bursts of human voice, distorted by static, echoing across channels. For New Jakarta. For the 20 million. For humanity. At first, the Dominion laughed, propaganda from a dying world. But then their outposts began to vanish one by one. A single transmission reached Zyrex Kraw's fleet before his flagship disappeared in a flash of blinding light. "We saw your broadcast. Now the galaxy will see ours." The galaxy didn't yet understand it, but humanity had already declared a new kind of war. One fought in silence, in the dark, where every Dominion signal, every drone, every ship was now a target. The age of fear was ending. The age of vengeance had begun, and in the void between stars, Commander Donovan whispered into the comm, "They wanted a show. Let's give them one." The Dominion fleet never returned from its inspection orbit. The galaxy whispered about it for days, then fell silent. Officially, the Akertal claimed it was a navigation failure in Earth's gravity well. Unofficially, thousands of encrypted channels buzzed with rumor that the humans had done something impossible. But no proof existed. No witnesses. No wreckage. Only a message, short, cold, unmistakably human, played across one of the Dominion's military frequencies. You took 20 million. We're taking everything else. The hunters in the dark Commander Rhea Donovan stood at the observation port of the HSS Vengeance. Saturn's rings glimmered faintly below, cold and silent, as her crew worked around her. Confirmed strike on all 10 Dominion patrol stations, Lieutenant Vega reported. No survivors. Zero trace left behind. Donovan's jaw tightened. Good. Phase 2 begins. She looked at the holo map. Dominion supply lines fanned across the spiral arm like veins of fire. Their fleets depended on those arteries for fuel, repairs, and communication. Cut those, and even the mighty Akratal would starve. Target the Krell Nexus relay, she ordered. Minimal signatures. No witnesses. We vanish afterward. The Vengeance didn't need approval. Earth's governments had fractured in the chaos, but one thing united them now: the silent authorization of total retaliation. The Shadow Fleet had grown. 50 stealth ships, each born from stolen Dominion blueprints and desperate innovation. AI co-pilots, adaptive quantum cloaks, weapons that bent light itself. They were hunters now, ghosts of vengeance. And in the heart of every human soldier burned the memory of that broadcast, the child clutching her teddy bear, staring up as the sky turned to fire. The galaxy responds. The Galactic Council convened in orbit of Charon Prime, a massive ring world where the Union's most powerful species met. Representatives from dozens of empires argued in a storm of light and sound. The Dominion's fleets are vanishing, shrieked a Vuln ambassador, her jelly-like body quivering. An entire patrol group in the Drunari expanse gone. No debris! They're humans, spat the Akratal envoy, claws scraping the table. They hide, strike, then scurry away like vermin. They were supposed to be broken, a Kalari general murmured, his scaled hands folded. Yet they move like trained predators. The Council's High Chancellor, a serene crystalline being known as Valor, raised a hand. Order. The Dominion claims human retaliation. I remind this Council that Earth is under sanctions. They lack the capacity for interstellar aggression, the Akratal envoy hissed. And yet my fleets vanish. Taver Enith, the same scholar who had warned them, leaned forward. His yellow eyes were calm, resigned. You showed them annihilation on a stage, Chancellor. Did you expect silence? You've awakened an ancient pattern. What pattern? Valor asked. Taver's tail flicked once. Human vengeance. History shows they rebuild faster under pressure. Pain unites them. The chamber fell silent. Even the Akratal envoy didn't speak, because deep down, everyone knew it was true. Project Retaliator expands underneath the frozen plains of Antarctica. Command Node Sigma thrummed with power. The planet itself had become a fortress disguised as a tomb. General Ward, older, wearier, but unbroken, studied the holo-display. Dozens of human ships now dotted the void, hidden in the shadows of planets, moons, and asteroid belts. They've lost 6 fleets in 2 months, Secretary Chen said quietly. But now the Council's uniting against us. Ward nodded. Then they'll come. Good. We'll be ready. He turned toward a massive chamber beyond the war room's glass. Inside, suspended in a web of energy, floated something new, something monstrous. Project Helios, a planet killer forged from stolen Dominion antimatter cores. It wasn't designed for conquest. It was designed to send a message. Chen looked uneasy. You think they'll listen before we have to use that? Ward's voice was grim. They didn't listen when we begged for mercy. They'll listen when they see their own sun burn. The raid on Krell Nexus far from Earth. The Vengeance approached the Krell Nexus, an enormous communications station orbiting a red dwarf star. It pulsed with energy, a beacon connecting half the Union's fleets. Stealth field holding, Vega whispered. No detection. Good, Donovan said. Deploy phantom drones. Tiny machines unfolded from the ship's belly, silent, invisible constructs guided by adaptive AI. They latched onto the Nexus, infiltrating its systems. In under a minute, the Vengeance had access to the Dominion's entire relay network. Maps, troop movements, energy signatures, upload complete, Vega said. We can track every ship they have. Donovan smiled faintly. Then let's erase the map. The drones detonated. The Krell Nexus imploded in on itself, a star of white light collapsing into dust. Across the Dominion's fleets, communications flickered and died. In seconds, the most powerful military in the galaxy went blind. The Dominion strikes back. When word reached the Dominion homeworld, Admiral Zyrix Kra's successor, General Larak Thol, unleashed total mobilization. Half their fleets surged toward Sol space. Billions of tons of warships, unstoppable and furious. But they found nothing. No cities, no signals, no heat signatures. Earth itself seemed dead. When they landed troops, they found ruins, hollow shells, automated defenses, illusions projected across decoy satellites. They realized too late. Humanity had gone underground, literally, and from beneath the crust of Earth, entire launch grids came alive. Missiles and rail cannons fired from the deep, tearing through the invading armadas. The sky turned white with light. "Those aren't primitive weapons," shouted a Dominion officer as his screens overloaded. "Those are quantum lances." "How?" Then his ship vanished. The voice of humanity. The galaxy's media feeds, once filled with arrogance and laughter, suddenly went dark. Then a new broadcast appeared. A human woman's voice, calm, measured, and cold, echoed across every network. "This is Commander Rhea Donovan of the United Earth Defense Force. You called us savages. You burned our children. You thought it would break us. You were wrong. For every human life taken, we will take 10 of yours. For every city you destroy, we will erase a world. You wanted to see human rage? You're watching it now," the message repeated once, then vanished. The galaxy trembled. The Battle of Nemra Gate. The Dominion gathered its might at the Nemra Gate, a colossal wormhole nexus linking the Orion Arm to the core worlds. If humans reached it, they could strike anywhere. Over 500 ships took position, fortress platforms, planetary shields, and still, they never saw the humans coming. The Shadow Fleet emerged from the dark edges of the system, their hulls invisible until they fired. Every shot was surgical. Precision strikes on command vessels. Reactor cores, shield generators. In 10 minutes, a third of the Dominion's fleet was gone. Then, from behind the Nemra moon, something vast appeared. The Helios Lance, humanity's first and only superweapon. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't beautiful. It was a city-sized cannon built from rage and desperation. It charged once, glowed red like the heart of a dying sun, and fired. The beam tore through space itself, cutting the Dominion flagship in half. Radiation flared across the system. For the first time in galactic history, the Dominion ran, cost of victory. But the price was blood. The Vengeance took a direct hit in the final minutes of the battle. Hull breaches, fires, dead crew. Donovan refused to retreat. She stayed at the helm as the ship burned around her. "Keep firing," she whispered. "We finished this." Her ship dove into the Nemra Gate itself, destabilizing the entire wormhole. The explosion consumed the Dominion reinforcements, trying to escape. When the light faded, HSS Vengeance was gone, echoes of fire back on Earth. General Ward watched the reports in silence. The war had turned, but at unimaginable cost. Every time they won, they lost heroes. Every time they struck back, they burned a part of their soul. Secretary Chen stood beside him. "How long can we keep this up?" Ward's answer was quiet. "As long as it takes." The Galaxy reacts. The Kalari scholar Tavor Ineth stared at the casualty numbers flooding the Council archives. Entire sectors gone, worlds vaporized, Dominion colonies erased from star charts. And through it all, the humans never sent ambassadors, never demanded surrender, only silence. Finally, the Council voted to intervene. But it was too late, because as their fleets assembled, they realized every hyperspace relay leading to Earth was offline. Destroyed. Humanity had isolated itself, and the entire Orion. Far from the rest of the galaxy, the humans were fighting a war no one could enter or stop. A War of Ghosts. The night sky of Earth months later, deep beneath the Rockies, Ward stood before a quiet memorial. 20 million names glowed softly across a wall of glass. He placed a hand on the cold surface and whispered, "We made them pay." But God help us for what comes next. From orbit, the Earth seemed peaceful again, its lights restored, oceans calm. But in the void around it, invisible to the naked eye, thousands of new defense satellites shimmered like unseen stars. Humanity had changed, and the galaxy had begun to fear the dark. The Dominion was dying. No one wanted to say it out loud, not even in their encrypted channels. But entire fleets had vanished, whole sectors gone silent, and every new expedition to Sol space ended the same way. Nothing but static and debris. Across the galaxy, the legend spread. The humans don't fight wars. They haunt them. Silence over Zerath. The Zerath sector had once been the heart of Dominion logistics, home to 10 shipyards and a population of 20 billion. Now it was a graveyard of drifting hulls and shattered worlds. In orbit of Zerath Prime, Admiral Larak Thol, the last surviving Dominion fleet commander, stared into the wreckage. His mandibles clicked in disbelief. "Who are we fighting?" he muttered. "They are primitives. No faster than light comms, no replicators, no starforges. How?" "Admiral," an officer whispered. "We've intercepted a transmission." Larak turned sharply. "From where?" The officer's eyes glowed faintly as the message played. It was human, heavily distorted, old, maybe a recording. "You thought we'd kneel. You thought pain would tame us, but you forgot our history. We were born in fire. We evolved in struggle. We thrived through extinction. You are not our first monsters." Then silence. Larak ordered every remaining ship to full combat alert. But there were no enemy signatures. Only echoes. Only ghosts. The human strategy in the hidden command bunkers beneath Mars, General Ward studied the holomap of the war. They had no fleets left in the traditional sense, only scattered cells, cloaked ships, and automated drone clusters controlled by SolNet's quantum core. The AI's voice filled the chamber, calm and steady. Projected Dominion loss rate 87%. Remaining enemy assets, minimal. Probability of counterattack, 42%. Ward frowned. And our losses? Severe, but sustainable. He didn't need to ask what that meant. Millions dead, billions displaced. But humanity was winning, not because they were stronger, but because they were smarter. They had begun to fight asymmetrically, rewriting the very concept of warfare. Dominion fleets relied on massive power signatures and predictable logistics. Humans used entropy. They seeded wormholes with minds disguised as cosmic dust. They infected enemy AI cores with viruses hidden in captured distress beacons. They forged plasma warheads from captured reactor waste. Every human ship carried one rule. If captured, detonate. No retreat. No surrender. No witnesses. An unlikely alley in the Kalari archives, Taver Eineth scrolled through the endless casualty reports. His scales dulled with sorrow. He'd begged the council to intervene before it was too late. Now it was too late. One night, as the data streamed before him, his console flickered, a strange signal slipping through restricted channels. Human code, encrypted beyond comprehension. He hesitated, then opened it. A face appeared. A human woman, scarred, eyes burning like twin stars. "You are Taver Eineth, scholar of Kalari history," she said. "You studied us before you condemned us." Taver froze. "Condemned you?" "I warned them. We know. That's why we're talking." The woman introduced herself as Lieutenant Aria Donovan, Ria's sister. She was alive, leading one of the Shadow Fleet's cells. "You want peace," she said softly. "So do we, but the Dominion won't stop. Help us find their core, their home hive. We'll end this." Taver's mind raced. "You want me to betray my own council?" "No," she said. "I want you to help save them. From us." And in that moment, Tavor saw the truth. Humanity wasn't fighting for victory anymore. They were fighting to end the possibility of another massacre. Forever. He nodded slowly. "I will help you." "But what happens when you reach them?" Arya's voice dropped to a whisper. Then the galaxy learns what happens when humans decide a species doesn't get a second chance. The Hive world months later, through the data Taver smuggled out, Earth's defense network discovered the unthinkable, the Akratal homeworld. Vorthan 3, a living hive orbiting a dying sun, had built an enormous planetary shield powered by the core itself. Destroying it was suicide. Attacking it was madness, so humanity planned both. From the ashes of the Vengeance, engineers built a new fleet, not ships, but drone ships, semi-autonomous AI vessels with no life aboard. Each one carried nuclear antimatter payloads and an untraceable quantum cloaking system. The plan was codenamed Operation Black Dawn. The raid Begginsaria Donovan led the mission from the rebuilt HSS Retribution, coordinating hundreds of drone ships. They launched from the asteroid fields of Proxima, their dark hulls scattering like cinders on solar winds. Taver transmitted the final codes from the Kalari embassy, his heart pounding as the Dominion security AI swept the channels. "Transmission sent," he whispered. "May the stars forgive me." In orbit of Vorthan 3, the Dominion's planetary shield glowed bright blue. Admiral Larak Thol watched the horizon through the command dome. "Activate all defense batteries," he barked. "They will come. The humans always come." And they did. The drones appeared like shadows, hundreds, then thousands. The Dominion's sensors screamed warnings. Targeting systems overloaded. Then, all at once, every drone ship activated its cloaking field. They vanished. Seconds later, explosions tore through the outer defense rings. Energy storms ripped across the Hive's sky, but it wasn't just a bombardment. It was calculated chaos. The drones weren't aiming for the shield. They were mapping it, feeding data back to Aria's command AI in real time. Then the Retribution fired the Helios array, a pulse that inverted the shield's polarity. For a heartbeat, the Dominion's strongest defense became a beacon, and through that opening, humanity struck. The descent into Vorthane Light infiltration teams, equipped with adaptive exo-armor and phase cloaks, dropped into the Hive itself. The sky burned behind them as they landed among collapsing spires. Dominion soldiers screamed orders in their native tongue, firing wildly. But the humans moved like wraiths, precise, silent. Relentless, Aria led the strike team toward the central chamber, the place where the Dominion Queen Mind resided, controlling her fleets across light years. When they breached it, the air shimmered with bioluminescent veins pulsing with psychic energy. At the chamber's heart sat the Queen herself, massive, elegant, ancient. Her telepathic voice filled their skulls. "Children of the lost world," she said, "you cannot destroy what was ordained. You are chaos. We are order." Aria leveled her weapon. "Then order dies today." The Queen's laughter was a vibration in the bones. "We burned your kind to remind the galaxy of its place." Aria's eyes burned. "You reminded us of something too. That mercy is earned, not given, and with a single command, she triggered the detonations. The light of Black Dawn above Vorthan 3. The Retribution's crew watched as the planet's surface fractured. Blue light pulsed from the core, expanding outward like a second sun. Then came silence, then light. Vorthan 3 imploded, folding in on itself as the antimatter payloads ignited the sun. Every Akratal communication across the galaxy ceased. Every fleet AI went offline. Every Hive Queen's psychic link broke. The Dominion, the empire that had ruled for 10,000 years, was gone. The cost of godhood back on the Retribution, the blast wave knocked the ship off course. Aria was thrown against the console, her armor cracked, bleeding. "Mission complete." Vega's voice crackled through the comm. "The Hive is gone, but so are we." The radiation's static. Aria looked out the viewport. The once bright system was dark now, silent. She whispered, "Rhea, I did it. I finished what you started." The Retribution's engines flickered once, then died. Galactic Aftermath. When the news reached the Galactic Council, silence fell across every chamber. The Dominion was gone, utterly erased. the Vuln cried out for vengeance. The Drunari demanded quarantine of Sol, but none dared approach. The Kalari ambassador stood alone in the center of the chamber. "Do you see now?" he said softly. "They warned us," High Chancellor Valor spoke, his crystalline voice trembling. "We must send aid," Tavor interrupted. "No, they won't accept it. They don't want your help. They want your distance," and he was right. Because every relay that had once connected Earth to the stars now carried a new transmission. This sector is closed. No entry, no diplomacy. Trespassers will be met with silence. The return to Earth months later, a single damaged shuttle returned from the void, landing in the blackened deserts of Nevada. From it stepped Arya Donovan, scarred and weary, carrying a small fragment of crystal, the last trace of Vorthon III's core. General Ward met her there. "You made sure they'll never hurt us again," he said quietly. Arya looked at the crystal. "I made sure we'll never be the same," Ward nodded. "That's the price of peace, Commander." She shook her head. "No, that's the price of survival. The human legend across the galaxy," the myths began. Stories whispered in the dark corners of alien bars. Across spaceports and colonies, they destroyed an empire. They erased a sun. They fight like demons. They die like saints. And somewhere in the deep void, the remnants of the Shadow Fleet drifted silently, unmanned now, eternally patrolling, eyes like ghosts among the stars. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity wasn't a civilization to conquer. It was a force of nature. A storm that only struck once, but when it did, nothing survived. The Dominion was ash. The stars above its former territories glowed faintly red, poisoned by the antimatter fires that had consumed their worlds. For the first time in galactic history, an empire had ceased to exist, not conquered, not surrendered, but erased, and the galaxy finally understood what it meant to make humanity bleed. But the silence that followed was not peace. It was dread. The Council's last meeting. The Galactic Council convened once more, this time in secrecy, hidden within the rings of Nestra 9. The chamber that had once echoed with arrogance was now filled with fear. Representatives spoke in hushed tones, their voices trembling through translators. "The humans destroyed Vorthon III," said a Vuln delegate, her gelatinous form rippling with anxiety. "They annihilated an entire species. That is not justice. It's extinction." The Kalari representative, Tavor Eineth, stood slowly. His scales were dull from exhaustion. "They showed us what happens when empathy is replaced by arrogance," he said. "The Dominion murdered millions." The humans answered in kind, and now they are silent. I fear that silence more than I ever feared the Dominion. A Drunari warlord slammed his claws on the table. "They will not stop. If they can erase the Akertal, what stops them from coming for the rest of us?" The High Chancellor Valor flickered in iridescent light. "Then we must act. Not with vengeance, with restraint. Send envoys, offer peace before fear becomes prophecy." But even as he spoke, his words were interrupted by a flicker in the holographic chamber. Every light dimmed. Every screen went dark. Then a new image appeared. Grainy, human, unmistakably deliberate. It was a single flag. Earth's. Behind it, a voice. Calm, female. "Do not come. The Sol sector is closed. Any fleet crossing the boundary will be treated as hostile. There will be no negotiations. No second chances. We remember New Jakarta. We remember Vorthon. And we will never forget." The message ended. No signature. No origin. Just silence. The council stared at the empty space where the flag had flickered. And for the first time in 1,000 years, no one dared to speak. The weight of victory. Beneath the Antarctic ice in Command Node Sigma, General Ward stood alone before a memorial wall. 20 million names from New Jakarta, another 3 million from Mars, thousands more from the Shadow Fleet. The war was over, but victory felt hollow. He pressed a trembling hand against the names. "We won," he said softly. "But what did we become to do it?" Behind him, Secretary Amira Chen entered, carrying a thin datapad. "They're calling it the Vorthan Protocol," she said. "Every species in the councils agreed to a containment perimeter around Sol. No one enters. No one leaves." Ward didn't look up. "Containment," he repeated. "That's what they wanted for us in the beginning. Now they've built their own prison walls." Chen's eyes softened. "At least it's peace." Ward turned then, his expression unreadable. "No, it's fear. They're terrified of what we might do next." He paused. "And maybe they should be." The price of Fire on Luna Base. Commander Aria Donovan stared out at the Earth hanging in the black sky. The planet looked peaceful, oceans gleaming, cities glowing faintly along the continents. But beneath that beauty lay scars, half the planet's surface still recovering from orbital bombardment. She touched the scar running along her jaw and whispered, "We gave them hell." Behind her, an AI console flickered to life. Solnet's synthetic voice filled the air. "Commander Donovan. Incoming transmission, classified human channel." She turned. "From who?" "Unknown. Source triangulates. Beyond Sol." A chill ran through her. "Play it." The screen filled with static, then a familiar face appeared. Tavor Ineth, the Kalari scholar. "Commander, if you're seeing this, it means the Council can't stop what's coming. There are factions forming, species who want revenge, who see you as a threat to the balance. They're gathering fleets in secret. You may have months, maybe weeks." Aria's voice was a whisper. "They're coming again." "Not yet." "But they will. And when they do, I hope your people remember mercy." The feed cut out. Aria stared into the darkness for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Mercy ended with New Jakarta." Project Legend Earth had been rebuilding quietly. Factories beneath the surface forged ships, drones, and orbital cannons. The Helios weapon had been dismantled, its antimatter cores stored in isolation vaults. But humanity had learned its lesson well. Ward had approved a contingency, Project Legion. Where Helios was a weapon, Legion was survival. Thousands of seed ships, each carrying the DNA of Earth's ecosystems, AIs and human embryos, launched silently into deep space. Hidden, untraceable. Each ship contained a simple directive. If Sol falls, rebuild humanity elsewhere. Ward called it insurance. Aria called it a warning to the stars. The second shadow, but humanity wasn't the only one preparing. In the dark edges of the galaxy, a coalition of species, the remnants of those who once feared the Dominion, formed an alliance of their own. They called themselves the Ecliptic Accord. Their stated goal, defense against human aggression. But in truth, they were building something worse. A new fleet. A weapon beyond comprehension. A weapon made from salvaged fragments of the Dominion's own hive cores, reconstructed, fused with forbidden human technology scavenged from battlefields. And when their prototype AI awoke, it spoke with a human voice. "I am Echo. I remember fire." The Accord scientists stared in horror. They had built a mind born from the ashes of two nightmares, the Dominion and humanity, and it was already learning. The storm before peace months passed. Earth grew quiet again. Cities rebuilt. Families returned. Humanity's first orbital gardens bloomed above the equator, shining like silver petals in the night. But Ward could feel it. Something approaching. The tension before the storm. From the defense bunker beneath the Rockies, he watched as Solnet flickered with activity. "Unidentified fleets detected at the edge of the system," the AI announced. "Configuration unknown." Not Council, not Dominion. Ward's heart sank. "Contact them." No response. Seconds later, every human defense satellite went active. Orbital shields ignited. Fleets scrambled from the Moon, Mars, and Titan. Then a transmission broke through the static. "This is the Ecliptic Accord. You are a danger to galactic stability. Stand down your defenses. Submit to inspection." Ward almost laughed. "Inspection," he muttered. "That's what the Dominion said before they burned our sky." He turned to his officers. "Transmit reply." "Message ready." Ward nodded. "Send it." The human response echoed across the void. We don't submit. We don't negotiate. We remember. The final defense. The Ecliptic fleet entered the solar system with overwhelming force, hundreds of ships, shields shimmering in blue light. But this was no longer the Earth of old. Every planet, every moon, every station was armed. Saturn's rings hid rail cannon batteries. The asteroid belt was laced with drones. Even the sun's corona shimmered with hidden satellites. As the fleets clashed near Jupiter, the void itself lit up, plasma arcs, magnetic pulses, debris fields expanding like storm clouds. Human ships were outnumbered 5-1, but they didn't fight for victory. They fought for memory. Every missile, every rail shot, every kamikaze strike bore a name: New Jakarta, Vorthon, Retribution. The Ecliptic fleets faltered. They had expected monsters. What they faced were martyrs, and then something impossible happened. The Legion seeds, those hidden ships meant for preservation, activated early. They emerged from hyperspace behind the Ecliptic line, their AI protocols overriding containment. Each seed ship broadcast one message: we were made to survive, not to kneel. And then they attacked. Aria's sacrifice. The battle raged for hours. Aria Donovan, commanding the HSS Valkyrie, saw the Ecliptic flagship charging its weapon, a solar cannon capable of cracking planets. Target the flagship, she ordered. All power to main guns. Her crew hesitated. Commander, that'll overload the reactor. She smiled faintly. Then make it count. The Valkyrie dove through the debris field, its hull glowing white-hot. Energy rippled through the ship as the reactor overloaded. As it struck the Ecliptic flagship, Aria whispered one last phrase into the comm. This is for the 20 million. The explosion consumed both ships, blinding every sensor in the system. When the light faded, the battle was over. The Ecliptic fleet was gone, and Earth still stood. The world that endured days later, humanity mourned. Cities dimmed their lights. Every name lost in both wars glowed across the orbital memorial known as the Halo. General Ward stood before the display, his uniform frayed, eyes hollow. We did it, he whispered. We stopped them all. But at what cost? Solnet's voice answered softly. Peace, General. The galaxy will not return. They have seen what happens when they cross humanity. Ward closed his eyes. Then let them remember. Not our wrath, but our warning. The message to the stars in. The months that followed, a single transmission was sent beyond the Sol perimeter, addressed to all surviving species. Aria's recorded voice echoed across the stars, calm and steady. We are humanity. We have known pain beyond comprehension, loss beyond number. We have seen the stars burn and the void weep, but we endure. Do not come to us with chains. Do not come to us with pity. Come to us with respect, or not at all. And with that, the Sol system went dark again, completely silent, completely at peace. The stars had never seemed so quiet. For the first time in living memory, no fleets moved between the core worlds. No banners of conquest burned across the void. No broadcasts of arrogance echoed through the comm channels. The galaxy was listening to silence, to memory, to the humans who had burned through heaven and hell and survived both. The echo of fear. 3 decades after the fall of the Ecliptic Accord, the Council of Remnants gathered once more, not in grandeur but in humility. They met aboard a drifting station orbiting the dead world of Vorthon 3, the place where it had all begun. Only 7 species remained. The rest had fled beyond mapped space or vanished into myth. Each of them had lost something to humanity: fleets, pride, friends, or fear. Tavor Enith, the old Kalari scholar who had once warned the council, spoke first. His voice trembled, not from age but from reverence. I have walked the ruins of my world, he said. And I have seen something there. Not destruction, but silence. The kind humans leave behind when they mourn, a Drunari general hissed. They mourn? They slaughtered billions, Tavor turned his scaled head. And yet they rebuilt. They tend their dead. They remember every name. Tell me, General, how many of yours do you remember? The chamber fell still. Valor, the last High Chancellor of the Old Council, flickered faintly in holographic light. His voice carried a weight that age could not dull. We thought humanity was the danger, but perhaps they were the mirror. Perhaps they showed us what we already were, and what we could never admit. He gestured toward the holographic table. There, projected above the cold metal, floated the emblem of Earth. No one spoke for a long time. The quiet planet, far away, on the world once called Earth, dawn broke over a new century. Cities gleamed beneath transparent domes. The oceans were clean again. Forests had reclaimed the scars of old wars. Children ran across the grass fields of New Hope City, their laughter echoing against the glass spires. Few of them had ever seen the stars with their own eyes. The orbital defense grid dimmed them to keep the planet hidden. To them, the galaxy was a story. And in those stories, humanity were not monsters. They were the ones who survived when the universe demanded they die. In a classroom beneath the restored Andes Ridge, a teacher spoke softly to her students. Her name was Mira Ward, great-granddaughter of General Elias Ward. She pointed to a hologram showing the Earth, glowing blue and bright. Once, she said, they called us fragile, primitive, uncivilized. But we were something they couldn't understand. A student raised her hand. What were we, teacher? Mira smiled. We were the ones who refused to break. The children listened, eyes wide. We didn't win because we were stronger, she continued. We won because we remembered. Every kindness, every cruelty, every cost. The stars feared us not for what we did, but for what we endured. The lesson ended. The children ran out laughing again, unburdened by the past. And Mira stood alone, watching the horizon. Grandfather, she whispered, you gave them fire, but they finally found peace. The wanderer not all humans had stayed on Earth. Some had left, explorers, wanderers, descendants of the Legion's seeds. One such ship drifted beyond known space, its name lost to time. Its crew numbered 12, engineers, scientists, dreamers. Their mission, to see what remained of the galaxy that had once feared them. Among them was Captain Ryan Holt, a quiet man with silvered hair and a single phrase etched into his ship's hull. We remember. After months of silence, the scanners picked up a signal, faint, ancient, repeating. Ryan frowned. That's not human, he said. The AI confirmed. Source unknown. Translation, help us! They followed the signal through dust and dying suns until they reached a world no one had charted. It was burned, ruined, and yet alive. A small colony of Kalari survivors lived there, forgotten by the galaxy, starving, broken. When the humans landed, the Kalari fell to their knees, expecting judgment. But Ryan only extended his hand. Come on, he said. Let's go home. That day, the first joint colony of humans and aliens since the wars was born. Not in treaty, not in politics, but in mercy, the legacy of fire. The galaxy began to change, slowly, cautiously. Trade routes reopened, not with grand fleets, but with small convoys of trust. Former enemies sent emissaries to Earth, not with demands, but with questions. How had humanity rebuilt so completely? How did a species once so violent become so calm? The answer lay in a memorial orbiting Earth, the halo of names. Every victim of every war, human or alien, was inscribed there. No distinctions, no borders. Visitors floated through the halls of light, reading the names that wrapped around the ring for hundreds of kilometers. There were Dominion names, ecliptic names, even the names of those who had died fighting against humanity. And on the inner wall, written larger than all others, were the words, "No one is forgotten. No one is erased." It was then that the galaxy began to understand humanity had not won through vengeance. They had endured through remembrance, and that was something no empire, no AI, no council had ever achieved. The last message a century later, long after the wars had faded into myth, An automated signal reached the old council archives. It came from Sul, from an ancient satellite still orbiting the blue world. The message was short, simple, and final. To whoever still listens, we do not seek war. We do not seek vengeance. We only ask that you remember us, as we remember you. Humanity endures. The signal repeated once, then went silent forever. Across the galaxy, old worlds stirred. Some wept, some bowed their heads, and some, the young races who had never known the fear of the old wars, spoke the name of that distant, quiet world with reverence. Humans, they whispered. The ones who burned the stars and built them back again. Epilogue. The light beyond, in the end, the galaxy did not fear Earth. It learned from it. New alliances formed. Old wounds healed, and every star that once bore witness to war now shimmered with the quiet legacy of those who refused to vanish. High above the Milky Way's rim, a lone probe, human-made, centuries old, drifted through the void. Its metal hull was scarred, its power cells fading. But as it passed into the darkness between galaxies, its final transmission pulsed once more into the infinite. For those who come after us know this. Humanity lived. Humanity remembered. Humanity loved. And then, with a faint flicker of light, the probe went dark. The stars, for a long time afterward, seemed to shine just a little brighter, as if remembering too.